Hello people of the internet, this is Shaky Jake, and I really need a catchphrase. Do you like Doctor Who? I like Doctor Who, it's great, isn't it? It's one of those shows that happens to hit all of the right spots for me as a television watcher, a fan of science fiction and fantasy, as well as all of the other genres that I personally enjoy, such as comedy or drama, alongside something more alternative, such as being experimental from time to time. There is, however, one thing I cannot stand about Doctor Who, and it's the fandom. Now, I include myself in that Doctor Who fandom because we are all incredibly fussy people who have very specific tastes in how we enjoy Doctor Who. But what I can't stand about the fandom more than anything are the YouTube fan channels centred around Doctor Who, which you think is a bit weird given that I'm a Doctor Who fan. I don't know, something about Doctor Who YouTube fan channels puts me off. Meet the FiveWhoFans, a well-known Doctor Who YouTube fan channel that has been around for a number of years and has a fairly big following. Everyone involved in the channel is a Doctor Who fan in one way or another, and I'm sure they're all very nice people, but I know that their content is not for me personally. Maybe I'm not in the target demographic for their audience. Anyway, FiveWhoFans have made tons of Doctor Who related content over the past few years, from reviews and Q&As, to discussions and debates about the show. Sometimes there's sketches too. Other times there's more clickbaity videos that are made purely just to capitalise on views, such as Classic Who Sucks, Why William Hartnell is the Worst Doctor, Why Peter Capaldi Needs to Leave Doctor Who, or today's case, Big Finish is not Doctor Who. Some of these videos aren't actually offensive necessarily, but there's no denying that they are designed purely to get views. Watch the Why William Hartnell is the Worst Doctor video and you'll see why. Guess what the similarity between these videos are? All of them were hosted by Billy Tracy, and I'm not sure if that's just a coincidence or if I just happened to get lucky picking these videos, but this already puts me off this particular person as a Doctor Who fan and as a representative of the FiveWhoFans channel. I am all for criticism and challenging a product that we all know and enjoy, but in these instances sometimes it just comes across as completely off-putting. In today's video, Billy is discussing about Big Finish not being Doctor Who and why it shouldn't represent the Doctor Who brand, even though it really doesn't for the vast majority of the general audience. This particular video is 2 years old at this point, and you're probably wondering why I'm responding to a 5-minute video that's this old. I watched this video for the first time a few weeks ago by complete accident and realised that a lot of it sounded ridiculous, as well as completely misunderstanding how Doctor Who as a franchise beyond a show actually works. I'm not sure if videos like this are meant to be trolling videos or genuine thoughts about Doctor Who, but it's bizarre to me how someone can feel this negative about a show and its expanded universe that they supposedly love and support. And yes, Digital Spy, Doctor Who does have an expanded universe. I can't believe I still read that article earlier this year, which was then contradicted by them not long afterwards. Criticism is definitely good, and I don't believe that Big Finish Productions are a perfect company in any way, but there is a limit between criticism and being completely uninformed, which this video often has quite a lot of. So whilst this video is 2 years old, it's good to still cover it so that if something similar happens in the future when Chris Chibnall decides he wants a gap year like Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat had during their own produced eras, then I can point people back to this video instead of making a new one. Let's begin.
Doctor Who is dead this year.
Is it? I thought he was still doing pretty well in all honesty.
It's official. I performed the post-mortem.
Yep. Cause of death, a surplus of national moments.
The definition of surplus, according to the Collins Dictionary, is if there is a surplus of something, there is more than is needed. And I can kind of understand that as a Doctor Who fan. When you look at how much is actually released for the show, it's almost endless. I would be the first person to actively complain at some of the more unnecessary merchandise, such as some of the special edition DVDs that have been released, or certain box sets that are just there to milk the fans. But using this particular argument to look at what looks like a Doctor Who DVD released around 2010 to 2017 is just bizarre, honestly. And this bit is just weird and slightly out of place.
With Series 10 not out until 2017 and a mere single special out this year, we're left with the least amount of Doctor Who since 2004, when there was no Doctor Who.
And what's wrong with that? Having only one televised Doctor Who story for a single year is not a huge blow, nor is it the end of the world. No pun intended. Did it suck that 2016 only had one televised Doctor Who episode? Yeah, of course it did, particularly when the budget used to create Class could have created 2 or 3 actual Doctor Who episodes with Peter Capaldi, but I don't mind shows having a break once every couple of years or so. It's much better to give production teams on a series of this scale a break after a long period of time consistently working on series after series, and let the general audience have a breather so that they can come back to it refreshed and wanting more, instead of feeling bored at the prospect of yet another year of a show that they're too familiar with or just not appreciative of as much in some cases. And honestly, after seeing Series 10 in 2017 and how that series, for me at least, consistently felt incredibly fresh and dynamic for the first time since the Day of the Doctor in 2013, I think it was the best decision to make at the time for everyone involved.
Good job we have Big Finish.
Yes, it is a good job we have Big Finish Productions. They're a great company who have developed a lot of great Doctor Who stories over the years and allow people to enjoy the series beyond television and also appreciate the audio medium, which is incredibly underappreciated as a format. They have also had licenses to work with a number of different series, from Blake 7 to Dark Shadows, as well as Survivors, The Avengers and The Prisoner. That's just a few examples right there. We could also go into their original stuff as well. Big Finish are not just the Doctor Who company. Yes, I'm sure that their Doctor Who work is what they're best known for and what sells best for them as a company, but they have contributed a lot of material for different series over the years. So, Billy, what appears to be the problem?
But wait, no, because Big Finish isn't Doctor Who.
Yes it is. Big Finish have the license to develop and manufacture Doctor Who stories within the Doctor Who universe, which is a contract set up by the BBC, and both parties agree to the terms and conditions set up, which then either gets renewed for another few years or the BBC decide that they no longer want Big Finish to work with the Doctor Who licence. Tell me, Billy, are the FiveWhoFans more Doctor Who than Big Finish? Because last time I checked, I don't recall FiveWhoFans ever being promoted or endorsed by the BBC. Of course, if I'm wrong, please tell me, but I would take Big Finish over FiveWhoFans any day of the week when it comes to enjoying more Doctor Who content.
Which is surprising, really, considering David Tennant's in it, and Colin Baker's in it, and the Daleks are in it, and the Daleks are in it, and the Daleks are in it.
The Big Finish productions can be seen as being more legitimate than some other forms of the Doctor Who expanded universe, simply because it has people who worked on or have been involved with the Doctor Who TV series at different periods throughout its life. These are being performed by the actual actors, actresses, and in some cases writers and directors who have worked on the show. I imagine that there are a number of people who have listened only to the Doctor Who audios when it comes to enjoying the expanded universe stuff, simply because it has the involvement of some of their favourite actors, actresses, writers, directors, producers, etc, etc. And for some people, they have worked at or for Big Finish productions consistently for just over 2 decades. Others, such as Nicholas Briggs, made his start in the world of Doctor Who both as a writer and as a voice actor, doing audio plays out of love for the show. And that was back with the audio visuals content that got a lot of creative and talented people that we know and respect today started on their now professional careers that eventually led to Big Finish being established as a company. Everything that happened with the audio visual stuff happened at least a couple of years before I was born, and I guess that it's something similar for you as well. Of course, as a Doctor Who fan and a representative of the FiveWhoFans YouTube channel, you most likely already know all of this, but I think you need reminding about it.
Okay, I'm gonna be straight with you all here, because I can already sense you about to throw your keyboards at the wall with rage. Wait, no! There we go.
No, I just think you're an idiot personally who is talking out of their arse and poorly representing the Doctor Who fandom, but moving on.
So here's what I mean when I say this, just so that we're all clear. Big Finish is not Doctor Who. Wait!
I strongly doubt anyone is saying that Big Finish are Doctor Who, at least not seriously. I doubt Big Finish themselves would say that they are Doctor Who. People know that Big Finish are a company who make audio productions, a good chunk of which just happens to be Doctor Who related, because the BBC agreed to a license with Big Finish to make Doctor Who audios, as I explained earlier. People know that Doctor Who is primarily a television show and that the Big Finish audios are there to complement the TV series, and for those that yearn for more Doctor Who content, an opportunity to enjoy further content. I challenge you to find someone who isn't a hardcore Doctor Who fan to say that they know of the show entirely through the audios. Unless if you find someone who listened to Doctor Who audios through BBC Radio 7 or BBC Radio 4 extra broadcasts, or is a huge audiophile in general, and has never watched the TV series whatsoever, I imagine that it's very slim. Not impossible necessarily, just very slim.
Big Finish is not Doctor Who, it's a part of it.
And the vast majority of people would agree with that. Are you seriously suggesting that your viewers don't think that the television series is the main reason why they got into the show, or that it doesn't represent what most people know about Doctor Who?
Just as Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures and Class and the books and the magazines are all part of that universe.
Yes, this all makes sense. Why couldn't you make more of this argument instead? K9 and Company, Torchwood, the Sarah Jane Adventures and Class all started off as televised Doctor Who spin-offs, whereas the novels are a separate entity of the Doctor Who expanded universe in the same vein as the Big Finish audios.
Doctor Who is that show that we watch on the telly on Saturdays with that angry Scottish bloke. It's the family show at the core of this brand.
I agree, and would always class Doctor Who as a family show, but elsewhere on the FiveWhoFans channel, it's a children's show apparently. So which is it?
That's right, it's a family show, as our audience are only too happy to remind us. And we all know what family means. It's something that's accessible to everyone. Now, I can't imagine a family sitting around a radio listening to Scherzo or Dark Eyes.
Oh bloody hell, how do you think people consumed entertainment before a TV set was invented or became commonplace in people's homes? Books, films at the cinema, magazines, radio. Don't underestimate how influential other formats were and still are in some cases. The two examples you mention in Scherzo and Dark Eyes are also completely different stories in how they are set up compared to the television series. Scherzo is very theatrical and stage play-esque, set in an eerie audio soundscape focused solely as a character piece between its two leads, whereas Dark Eyes takes on a more action-packed narrative and going for a more gritty style with its lead character who is, at this point in his life, a bit broken and exhausted after recent trauma. Sure, they may be less accessible to a family audience, but not completely inaccessible to every single person on the planet, and who knows, maybe Big Finish audios are enjoyed by some families, even if they're not the most obvious audience for them, at least initially.
And I'm not saying Big Finish is bad because of that. In fact, I'm not saying Big Finish is bad at all.
Well, you kind of are. Your video title states, Big Finish is not Doctor Who, implying that you disagree with the concept or the content that Big Finish Productions produce and have produced for 2 decades at this point.
And remember, this is coming from someone who spent well over £100 this year on their stuff.
So why are you complaining then? Judging by the audios that you show here, you bought several physical box sets for the 8th Doctor, the War Doctor, the Diary of Riversong, and several special limited edition box sets. If you enjoyed what Big Finish Productions have created and produced, and as the FiveWhoFans YouTube channel elsewhere, continue to show support for Big Finish, why are you making such a big deal over how they are perceived by either the general audience or the Doctor Who fandom?
Big Finish are being very sensible in that they produce and aim their content at the only people who can afford it, and that's the grown-up fans.
Again, I won't disagree here. I started collecting Big Finish audios in 2007 when I was 15 years old and struggled to buy them all the time as Big Finish had far less sales back then, and getting into them on a regular basis was less accessible for me as someone who at that point only had a part-time job and the download option wasn't available at that point in time on Big Finish's website. Nowadays, Big Finish have grown as a company and in confidence as their consumer base has increased, therefore allowing more potential sales and discounts from time to time. And their audience grew as a result of the television series continuing to be successful, and the inclusion of the new series material in more recent years has certainly helped them as opposed to hindered them financially. The BBC also show confidence in Big Finish as a company by continuing to renew their license to make Doctor Who content, at least up until 2025, which is 7 years away from now. Hopefully the licence will continue to be renewed up until 2030 in a few years' time, at the next opportunity to discuss the licence if this positive collaboration between both organisations carries on. The point I'm trying to make is that yes, whilst older fans are more likely to be the target audience for Big Finish, There's nothing to stop a younger audience deciding to take a punt on the Big Finish audio product and discover a new style of Doctor Who that they may actually enjoy beyond just the TV series.
The issue is, because it's not family-orientated Doctor Who, it can't fill the void that the official show is left.
I can't give you a list, but I'm sure there are plenty of Doctor Who audio plays that could be considered family-orientated. Especially after the show came back and the BBC wanted Big Finish to focus more on making their audios as consistent with the TV show tonally, outside of a few plays here and there. Not every audio is grim like Spare Parts, Jubilee or Master are, and I would happily play something like The One Doctor, Grand Theft Cosmos or 1963, Fanfare for the Common Men for a family audience if I could choose. Plus, the TV series, both in the classic series and the new series, have had tons of thoughtful moments and drama that is relatable to a lot of viewers. Just look at how, at one stage, stories such as The Daleks' Master Plan and The Enemy of the World were viewed as family drama, and they're not completely easygoing all of the time. As I'm sure you're already aware, those stories are incredibly grim in some places.
So please, can we not pretend otherwise?
Again, I don't know where you're getting this idea that the Doctor Who fandom are treating Big Finish as more representative of Doctor Who than the TV series is. There are people who prefer Big Finish Doctor Who over its television counterpart, sure, but they're not actively stating that Doctor Who on TV doesn't count or that it's unwarranted in any way. People respect that Doctor Who is a TV series and acknowledge it as a TV series first, before any other medium, as that's what it's best known for. It's like Star Wars and how there were a section of the audience who, before Disney bought the rights to the IP, treated the original Expanded Universe novels as their Star Wars, but still loving and respecting the films from the Star Wars saga as the original source of their enjoyment. Seriously, whilst I admit that there are exceptions, I would still put a good bet that most people got into Doctor Who because of watching the TV series first and not the audios or the novels or the comics or whatever else exists.
I mean, look at the first 2 issues we had of Doctor Who magazine this year. Both covers are dominated by Big Finish on the front and the back. It's not a bad thing, but it hammers home the reality that this is all we've got now.
It's not a bad thing, yet you're moaning about it anyway. Also, what's wrong with the Doctor Who magazine promoting Doctor Who products outside of the TV series? I have bought Doctor Who magazine maybe once or twice in my entire life, and it doesn't just focus on the TV series, and if it did, that would be incredibly dull. As a magazine aimed at a Doctor Who fan, it has every right to promote Doctor Who outside of the TV series, whether it's with DVDs, soundtracks, the audios, the books, the comics, the action figures, the merchandise, Tom Baker's question mark underpants and whatever else exists. Promoting the market of Doctor Who products that are available just makes complete sense. Would you feel the same way about it if FiveWhoFans got promoted in Doctor Who magazine? Because the fan show with Crystal D has quite a bit of coverage around Twitter and YouTube off the top of my head, but they have every right to be promoted if the BBC, for example, feels that they should be prominent within the brand's advertising and marketing. The BBC have every right to do so, regardless of my personal lack of interest in it, because I'm not the only Doctor Who fan that exists, and that Doctor Who fandom is an incredibly wide and diverse set of fans. You're making a big issue and nitpicking it for silly reasons. Saying all we've got now as if we're some kind of survivors from a big war with only a little bit of Doctor Who content left, that's just laughable. In the context of Doctor Who in 2016, you had one televised episode and then a massive amount of potential Doctor Who content elsewhere if you were a huge fan of it and wanted to enjoy more in the meantime. I don't see the problem, and you're overreacting to such a minor issue.
This is the front line, the face of the brand.
The face of the brand. Are you being serious? Who, aside from you, is saying that Big Finish is the face of the Doctor Who brand? The mascot of the entire franchise? What section of the Doctor Who audience are stating that the Big Finish audios are significantly more important than the TV series for not just the fandom, but the general audience as well? I bet you can't find any sources.
And yet, to the family, there's this paywall to some pretty high-concept, complex stuff. To the family.
The TV licence covers Doctor Who, so in theory, Doctor Who is behind a paywall with the TV licence fee. If you want to buy a Doctor Who DVD or Blu-ray of any Doctor Who content from 1963 through to the present day, it's behind a paywall. If you want to watch Doctor Who on Netflix, it's behind a paywall. If you want to buy a book, an audio, comic book, whatever else, it's behind a paywall. I can kind of understand your logic, but you're overthinking it.
It's not an alternative, it's more like compensation.
If Big Finish Audios for Doctor Who is compensation, then I'm sold. But realistically, it is just an alternative source of entertainment, and for some fans, more reasons to enjoy Doctor Who.
Except you pay for it.
Again, all of Doctor Who is behind some form of payment. It's just that the TV series is the easiest and most convenient to experience.
So, why are we being told that it is? And why are we being told that Series 10 being delayed is a good thing? And why weren't we told sooner? And why are we being told that having the Olympics in the same year as Doctor Who would be physically impossible? Stop spinning, okay? Stop spinning!
What?
Good grief, the spinners everywhere. It's not just being told that we've got Big Finish and Class to look forward to, which aren't even aimed at the target audience of the show.
Torchwood wasn't aimed at the same audience as the Doctor Who audience either, remember? And the Sarah Jane Adventures wasn't aimed at the same audience as the Doctor Who audience. Do you dislike either of those shows? Not every single Doctor Who related product has to be the exact same style, content-wise or audience-wise.
Apparently, it's also giving Stephen more time to work on the scripts. But that's a lie as well! He's not! That's ploppers! He's got Sherlock Series 4 to write! He's spending as much time dedicated to writing Series 10 as he was for Series 9, and Series 8, and Series 7, and Series 6, and Series 5. Wow, he has been around for a long time. And Peter is off directing HBO's Veep, which he, and therefore Stephen, would have known about last year, back when they were telling us with absolute certainty that there would be a full series in 2016 of BBC TV's Doctor Who.
Okay, outside of the Stephen Moffat and Peter Capaldi politics, as they are no longer involved with Doctor Who regularly at this point of me making this video compared to when FiveWhoFans made this video and thought it was a good idea to publish on their channel, I personally felt that the gap year for Doctor Who benefited Series 10 as opposed to hindering it, as well as Moffat's writing and Capaldi's performances. Whether it's due to Moffat needing more time to write scripts, Capaldi wanting to do other things with his career, or the production team needing a break after almost 7 years of consistent production work, I really don't care either way, because it's honestly worked out for the best from what I can tell. Although I'm trying to be as positive as I can, unlike you, Billy. You know, someone who is supposed to be a massive Doctor Who fan who loves Doctor Who, apparently.
So, why the deceit, guys? Come on, you can tell us. We're your fans.
Are you suggesting that there's a BBC conspiracy theory? Because I'd be interested in this web of lies that they have set up surrounding the Doctor Who brand in this instance by using Big Finish as their main source of Doctor Who, if that's what you're suggesting instead.
But it's this comment that takes a flipping biscuit. Sorry, Richard. From Charlotte Moore, who's now the commissioner of all BBC television, which Radio Times describes as, I shit you not, a super controller. This is the most catastrophically stupid, patronising thing anyone in television has ever said, ever. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't have Doctor Who this year because it'll be too much for your tiny little brains to comprehend.
First off, this video is the most catastrophically painful experience I have ever seen on YouTube in quite a while, and if I were in your position, I would be ashamed to be the face of this video, let alone take a co-writer's credit for writing this shambles. On a second point, yes, some of this statement is a bit ridiculous given that Doctor Who aired in 2012, not long after the London 2012 Olympics, but maybe, just maybe, Charlotte Moore wanted to not potentially jeopardise Doctor Who's viewing figures alongside sports events such as the Olympics. If Charlotte Moore had this view as a professional individual working within the BBC, she has every right to make that professional decision as controller of the programmes that are broadcast on that channel.
All of that is, of course, spin. A pretty flimsy game of spin, but spin all the same. The terrifying thing is, people actually seem to be buying into it.
It makes logical sense, honestly. You can disagree with the decision at the time and criticise it, but it's not completely incorrect. Unlike your video.
Look, I don't want an uproar. I'm not asking for a revolution. I'm just a little bit concerned that no one seems to be calling out the bold-faced lies of a show that's aimed at families, where teaching morals is a good thing, and a good example of a moral is don't lie.
The BBC lie a lot. Creative companies and people lie a lot. They will exploit their entertainment and their products when and if they feel it is necessary. That will never change. It's not right, but unfortunately it does happen.
Am I the only one that's seeing the issue here, or...? Doctor Who is in danger of losing trust with its audience in a web of deceit.
By using the Big Finish audios as an alternative source of entertainment whilst the TV series took a gap year, I assume that's what you're going to get back to based on your video.
I honestly would have been happy if they'd just been upfront and truthful with us. I'd have had so much respect if they'd just, put up their hands and gone, actually, do you know what? Stephen has other commitments, Peter wants to direct Veep, and the production team are getting pretty tired.
I guarantee you still would have found a reason to make this video either way, even if everyone had been more upfront about it.
We'd still all have kept with it because, we're fans. The only people that actually care about this.
If you're a fan as you claim to be, maybe you should trust in some of the wisdom of the creative decisions that take place behind the scenes. Again, you can criticise the decisions and point out alternatives, but you're acting as if the BBC personally attacked Doctor Who and its viewers.
But no, apparently everything is fine, apparently everything is okay, apparently we should be grateful. Grateful? Grateful? If any other show had decided to hightail it for a year or two and chalked it up to national events, there'd be uproar.
I wouldn't mind it if another show needed to take a break for the cast and crew or the production team to not go through a horrible creative burnout, or even the channel having an overall dissatisfaction with the product that they are responsible for. If they want to use surrounding events as a reason to not make something to try and avoid competing or getting lost amongst something that might resonate more with people at the time, then that sounds quite reasonable to me. When are you going to talk about Big Finish again? You seem to have forgotten about them lately.
Especially considering this is meant to be a global phenomenon? We're sorry, there's no news for the rest of this year because the BBC are broadcasting so much quality drama. You'll have to find out the weather by going online or looking out the window!
Okay, a sketch related to the point he's trying to make. It's funny because we just heard him talk about this moments ago. Fantastic writing. I'm sure this is where that co-writer's credit came from. How long did it take to come up with this? A minute? An hour? Let's get an insight into the FiveWhoFans writing process. Now I want to watch an actual funny sketch show like Monty Python's Flying Circus instead of whatever this is.
So to conclude, everyone wants you to think that everything is fine and dandy, but the reality is, Big Finish is not Doctor Who, Class is not Doctor Who, and if you're a kid that likes this show, then oh well, it looks like no one cares about you.
Oh good, Big Finish are back again. And kids aren't that stupid, Billy. If a kid loves Doctor Who to the point where they are a huge fan of it, they will consume Doctor Who products any way they can whilst it is not being broadcast. They might buy some DVDs or Blu-rays and watch over 50 years worth of Doctor Who television stories. They might buy some books, buy some comic books, buy some audios. If they want something from the show enough, they will gain access to it somehow, even if it's just through birthdays and the occasional festive Christmas holiday. And at this point, I'll end the video there as the credits appear. In fact, the whole written by and performed by credits still bugged me. Was this intended as a serious video to promote discussion and debate, or an opportunity for clickbaiting and trying to get a rise out of the FiveWhoFans audience and Doctor Who fans in general? Again, I'm all for criticism, and Doctor Who TV were able to present a more compelling argument about why Big Finish haven't always been great for Doctor Who, although I still heavily disagree with that article, but this video is just inept. I also imagine that a lot of the FiveWhoFans audience are much younger fans who will take their favourite Doctor Who YouTube channel's word as God. Now just imagine if one of those fans who wanted to potentially explore more of the Doctor Who universe was considering buying just one audio to see what it was all about, and then they got put off by this video. Or later on they decided that this line of thinking was correct and started repeating the same thoughts expressed here without ever trying at least one audio. I feel that would be incredibly tragic, and you should feel personally responsible if someone decided to completely not try out a new product thanks to videos like this. I guess we'll never know, but to Billy and anyone else involved with the FiveWhoFans YouTube channel, you got off incredibly easy in this video, and I'm honestly shocked that you didn't get completely slammed more than you did for this. Before I go, I just want to post a couple of quotes posted on this video that I agree with, and alongside my final thoughts on this whole thing. So this first comment is by Trev Al, and he says, "You're such an ill-informed idiot. First of all, Doctor Who magazine has always promoted Big Finish audios, even when you were still up in your father's nutsack, so that's nothing new there. Secondly, once upon a time, Big Finish audios were the only thing we had, and long before the TV series was resurrected. If it wasn't for the hard work of fans keeping the franchise alive through audio, books and independent video productions, I very much doubt you would even have a TV series now. They kept Doctor Who alive after the original series was cancelled and considered forever dead. So instead of moaning on and on like a little bitch, be grateful you even have a series like Doctor Who to even watch. Whilst this is not completely tactful, I completely agree with all of this, and I'm sure that if Billy of the FiveWhoFans had any common sense, would be a bit more humble after this and realise that they were possibly wrong, and how they could have avoided using their own deceitful tactics for views, as another commenter by the name of Temporal End pointed out on this video. Nice misleading clickbait title. Good argument. Shame about your own deceit used to get people to click on this video. You might want to consider being a bit more transparent and less sensationalist with your material. It doesn't look good. This was then responded to by Ginger Animator, who was the co-writer of this video. Again, why does this video need writers? I won't read the whole thing out, but I will post a screenshot of this entire comment thread, but I'm completely on Temporal End's side in this comment thread here. So, returning to that first comment, what did Billy have to say in response? 1. Big Finish wasn't a thing when I was a modest sperm. 2. I don't think the books, audios or video productions had anything to do with the show returning. Debate me. 1v1. Fight. In the car park. After school. Billy. My response to you is this. 1. No, maybe Big Finish weren't around when you were born, but as I said earlier, with the audio-visual stuff, people such as Nicholas Briggs and Gary Russell started their long working relationship with Doctor Who through those products before Big Finish Productions was set up by the likes of Jason Hay-Ellery. I could go on and on about how many people have worked to make Big Finish a reality, and in some cases, their entire career, but we'd be here forever. But there are a lot of people who put a lot of work and time into making this happen. 2. The wilderness years kept Doctor Who alive away from TV for the fans, and again, people that you know today such as Russell T Davis, Stephen Moffat, Mark Gatiss, Chris Chibnall, Paul Cornell, Nicholas Briggs, etc, etc. They all made their start within this time period before going on to work on the TV series in extremely big capacities, and have made careers out of this. Number 3. A fight in a car park. Really, Billy? A fight and a debate? Oh, look here. Billy is hard because he can't particularly back up his points anymore. Can you be any more juvenile than you already sound? And this is why people don't take you seriously in claims like this. So, FiveWhoFans, you made a mistake with this video. I can't believe you thought this was a good idea when you had promoted Big Finish in a much more positive light on your channel through audio reviews and discussions. You allow this video to exist solely for clickbait and views and to try and trigger a section of the Doctor Who audience, as well as potentially manipulate younger viewers into thinking that somehow Big Finish being promoted by the Doctor Who brand is somehow a bad thing when Big Finish are officially endorsed by the BBC. I hope that your content nowadays is much less stupid and more engaging than this, because this was a bad day for you guys clearly. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.